So welcome back to the Big Small Business Show. And as you know, our theme right now has been around youth entrepreneurship. So if you're an entrepreneur that is defined as a youth, and particularly young youth, as in around 18, 15, 25, not older than that, or you're the parent of a young entrepreneur, a potential young entrepreneur, I want to share a couple of tips for you or your kids or loved ones on how to think about entrepreneurship as a youth entrepreneur. So tip number one is do the research. Now, when we talk about doing the research, don't do the research with your cousins and your parents, because they're going to say, oh, it's so nice. I would buy that. It's amazing. Well done. And then when you go to the market doesn't feel that way. I had that experience. I did it in a slightly different way when I started one of my first businesses. It was called the New York Sausage Factory. I handed out free hot dogs and then asked people, what do you think? And as they were stuffing their mouths, they were going, that's very nice. And I was going, they love the sausages. They love the hot dogs. And of course, when I opened my first store and they had to pay for it, there was a very different experience. So make sure when you're doing the research, you're doing the right type of research to the right type of people, not the people who feel obligated to go, you go girl or you go boy. Don't do that kind of research. Number two, make sure when you start a business as a young entrepreneur, it's not an ego thing. It's not to have the fact that you've got your brand all over the place. It's about being the biggest, the best. Make sure that when you're starting your business, it's about the business. It's about the fact that the business can make a profit. It's not about the fact that you can just have your brand out there. Now, I can only say this because when I was a youth entrepreneur, I started a brand called Hump Clothing. And I had this whole thing, and I just wanted to see my brand all over the place. It was all about the brand. And what did I forget to do? The business case. It didn't make business sense, and therefore, none of you know about Hump Clothing. Now, what about the model, the business model? That's where we're moving to. Make sure before you even start the business that you've worked out the business model. How does this business make money? What are the costs, the cost of sales? What are your expenses? What is your margin? What is the selling price? What are the things that could go wrong that you need to put into the business case? What do premises cost? What about electricity, transport, insurance, all those kinds of things? There's so much information on the internet to help you build out a business case. So go to the internet, go find a business model in terms of an income statement or a budget, and build out a business model for your business. If you're going to get funding for the business, whether it's from a bank or from family, they're going to want to see that anyway. Number four is, are you passionate about this thing? Are you really passionate about this thing? Now, let's just talk about this passion thing. Passion doesn't mean that, just because you love clothing. I suppose if you're a teenager, everyone loves clothing. Or if you love food, you've got to really ask yourself, if you're passionate, what is the extent of that passion? So let's talk about food. If you love food and say, I love food, are you watching YouTube channels on food all the time? Are you a real foodie? Do you want to know how something is made every time you taste something new? If that's the type of passion you have, that's the right type of passion. If you can just make the statement, I like clothes or I like fashion, but you are not immersed in that thing, that particular industry, and know how that operates, then you're not passionate enough. You've got to tick that passion box in the right way. Then, are you skilled? Are you skilled? Do you have the right skills? So let's talk about the food thing as an example, if you want to get into food, or let's talk about clothing. Let's talk about any industry. Do you have the relevant skills, the sufficient relevant skills in that space? If you're a foodie, for example, can you cook? Are you good at that? Can you decorate? Can you bake? Can you do something? Can you do that at the basic level? Can you do it at the basic level? And the second part to that question is, can you get the skills? So there's always going to, you're young, so there's going to be a skills gap. But can you get the skills? Are those skills available either through mentors or through other people or through online courses or through courses? Can you close the gap of the amount of skills that you require in order to be successful in that business? Now, if you've got no skills, then don't start. If you've got some skills, then, and you can close the gap, then start. But there's another piece to the skill thing, which is, do I have the commitment to get those skills? Will I actually close the gap? And so for me, when I speak to young entrepreneurs, I ask them, so what skill do you have in this? Okay, how can you close the gap? And tell me how you're going to show me another time in your life where you've actually committed to something to close a gap between something you want and something you don't have now. Okay, and so it's very important that you are honest with yourself before you start this journey, that you can actually commit to closing the skills gap. Then number 6 is, can you sell? Do you have the confidence to go out and sell your product or service to somebody? And that doesn't mean just, can you just recite a speech around your product where you just stand there and quite rigidly talk about it? Can you have a conversation with somebody? Can you ask the right questions? Are you out there able to sell and put yourself into a situation where you get rejected? And this is an important part about selling. It's not just that can you tell somebody about your product, but as a young entrepreneur, can you withstand rejection? For me, when I see young entrepreneurs fail, when I go to one of the biggest causes of that failure is they've heard no 3 or 4 times and they go, well, this is not for me. 3 or 4 rejections and they give up. Can you withstand rejection? So part of the question of can you sell is, can you withstand rejection? And part of withstanding rejection is understanding rejection is just part of the journey and it's an objection, and can you actually overcome that objection? And finally, number 7 is start. I see too many young entrepreneurs talking about things, showing things, and actually not doing anything about it. Everyone gets excited. They get excited. Everyone is, oh, here's my young son or my young daughter. They're an entrepreneur. What have you done? Well, they're going to when they finish school or when something happens into the future. Don't be one of those people. Get started today. Today. If you can tick off all the other things, then get started today. Have you done the research? Yes. Then I can start today. And have I made sure that this is not an ego thing? Then I can get started today. And is the model correct? Does it make business sense, this business? Have I done the business model and it works? If yes, then I can start today. Am I really, really passionate? If yes, then I can start today. Do I have the skills or can close the skills gap? Then I can start today. And can I sell and withstand rejection? Then I can start today. Start today.